If I asked you to tell me, is this a Toyota BZ4X or a Subaru Solterra, and I'm covering up the badge, it would probably be quite difficult to tell what the difference is. But there are some. So basically this car is an alliance between Toyota and Subaru. It's happening an awful lot these days. But there are some fairly different parts to this car. For example, you can only get it in all-wheel drive. Across the nose, you have fog lights down here, which are different. The headlights are slightly different to the Toyota, and there's obviously a Subaru badge on the front. But do you need an all-wheel drive, family-sized SUV EV, or is front-wheel drive enough? We'll establish that by the end of this video, and I'm not particularly happy with the efficiency of this car, and we'll get into that. Welcome to Nobby on Cars. Yeah, a little bit different over the front, bit of chrome, bit of black to break it up. Black insert here at the end of the bonnet between there and the windscreen, and we have two air curtains over the front. The main difference at the back of the car compared to the Toyota is this light bar is broken up here, so clusters on either side. I think there's somewhere on the boot lid that looks slightly different. I think that could be a line or something, but that unusual rear spoiler is the same. There's a little lip across the back of it, and the boot for a dual motor car is 452 litres, which is pretty good actually. This touring version of the car has a Harman Kardon sound system, so you get a sub for that in the side of the car. But again, it doesn't really impact on the floor space where you can store your Type 2 cable or your granny charger. So that's very, very handy. And we have a flexible load cover for the cargo part. Really dead handy if you've got dog boxes and bikes and you want stuff covered up, but it's not all just going to fit into a hard shell. So I like that, and you get an electric tailgate. Yet another beep from this car, which does like to beep. It likes to beep a lot. Fast charge of the car can do 150 kilowatt charging, although the charging curve is questionable on this car and the Toyota. It doesn't particularly last very long. Charging port is over here. There's a lovely solid feel to that door. The drawback when it comes to AC charging is the maximum speed is 7 kilowatts. That's fine if you're charging at home, but it means you can't take any benefit from on-street chargers. That is a little bit disappointing again, because the price of this car from a little over €51,000, there's a lot of competition in the space, and little charging details are really, really, really important when you're trying to weigh up what's going to work for you and your family. One area both the Solterra and the Toyota really are great is rear space. There is so much space. There's a flat floor. You've got nice height on the doors, so people will be able to see out. Windows are a good size. If you get the higher spec car, you're going to get this panoramic glass roof. Doesn't open, unfortunately, but it does allow light to come in. Space for your feet and your knees. You've got, in higher spec versions, heated seats and USB-C charging points, of which there are 2, which there's nothing wrong with that. We have an armrest, good quality, nice angle. And it is just a really nice place to sit in the back. It's good support for the back of your thighs. And the roof still has not a vast amount of space, but a decent enough amount of head space, a couple of inches, depending on how tall you are. Something I just can't get used to is the steering wheel. It's the same in the new Prius, the Toyota, and now the Solterra. And it's just so ugly. It's like, what is the need for this? Then you have an infrared sensor staring at you at all times, seeing if you're paying attention. This beeps at you for everything. If you put your hand up here on the steering wheel, it will warn you to say driver awareness blocked or something like that. So that can be frustrating. What else is frustrating? If you have had an Android phone, you're going to need a cable to stream your device basically, and there's Bluetooth audio as well. You've got decent graphics on your sat nav. However, it constantly tells me in 1 kilometer there's heavy traffic, and then there isn't. It's trying to do some sort of Google Maps thing, and maybe it's not connected to something properly, I don't know. This higher spec version has automatic heated seats, heated steering wheel, and climate control and demisting devices for the front windscreen, and there's no wiper on the back, so that can be a little bit annoying. You have a button down here to operate effectively one pedal driving. Certain trims again have wireless charging plate down here. There's a USB-A port there and 2 for the USB-Cs below. Really great space for your drinks, and an armrest that is okay actually as well. If you have it on your car, the 360 overview camera is really, really good, and it's hard to see it here because I'm just on grass, but if you're 2 wheels up on a footpath trying to not block a road, for example, you'll see the line of the path underneath the car, the way it's projected. It's synthetic leather. It's kind of par for the course these days, and you kind of have a fabric material going on the inside of the car, which works. You know, it's very black and very Toyota-ish, and you know, nothing is going to amaze you, but you feel like it's going to last a long time. There's no rattles as such, or squeaks, or anything like that. And you have this head-up display, effectively, which is your instruments, again from the Prius. Depending on how high you sit, this part of the wheel may block it. Not as bad as Peugeot, but it may block it. It tells you everything you need to know, and you don't really need to take your eyes off the road when you're using it. What is frightening is it's telling me I have a 38% state of charge and I've got 110 kilometers left. So let's talk about that on the drive. So where some brands have opted to go for 300 brake horsepower on dual motor vehicles, Subaru have kind of detuned it almost, that it's better at grip rather than 300 brake horsepower getting stuck in mud and not being able to get out of it. And actually, speaking of which, so you have X mode, which you can get on the Toyota thanks to Subaru, and there's deep mud and snow and this kind of loose mud. More than anyone's probably ever going to need, but if you're at something like a festival that was a bit mucky, or, I mean, this little off-road course I'm on today, the car has just blitzed through it. Not a bother. Although the two motors, front and rear, are the same output, they've actually changed the size of it on the rear of the car to not compromise interior space. So clever thinking there from Subaru. My real issue with the car is, no matter how I've tried, I've put it into eco mode, I cannot get the car below 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And that is just outrageously inefficient. The battery size should be able to cope with it. It's a big enough capacity. The aero quality of the car, I don't know. I know when the Toyota came out, they were waiting on a software update to improve efficiency, which kind of seems mad. You can make a car more efficient with just the click of a mouse, but that's just not good. I mean, for the performance, even despite the fact that it's dual motors, that is shocking efficiency. And if it was really cold, it's 11 degrees today, but it hasn't been a bad week temperature wise. If you were doing this car in cold temperatures and on something like a motorway, I just wonder, would you see 200 kilometers out of a charge? And I know the argument is there for who does more than 200 kilometers in a day. It's not really the point. If you spent this money on your car, you want it to be maybe not the equivalent of a petrol or diesel range, but you want it to be better than potentially 200 kilometers when it's cold. Now, when it's cold, it will grip beautifully, fine. But I suppose one of the big pluses of this car is that you can do this in it, and it just copes very, very well indeed. And the power is never neck snapping, even if you have floors. It's just like, yeah, we'll get there. So it's not really a quick EV as such. I mean, yes, there's electric torque and all that stuff, and it's not exactly a slouch. But if you're expecting, you know, a dual-motored car to really thump you into the back when you accelerate, it's not going to happen in this. All that said, it's very relaxing to drive. It's very smooth, even on these bigger wheels. There's plenty of profile in the tires. The safety kit on board is excellent. So you're talking about frontal collision, blind spot monitoring, good quality cameras, all the safety aids, but the driver monitor thing is just too severe. There's just way too much going on. But you do get radar cruise control, and you know, it's a well kitted out car, if a little boring and dark. You know, some nice grey might break it up somewhere in the headlining, or I don't know, it would give it more of a premium feel nonetheless. But I suppose that is the big selling point of the Subarus. You don't really have to spec. I mean, the jump to the higher 56,000 euro model, yes, it gets you the glass roof and a slightly better camera and nicer alloys, but actually that gives you an idea that the normal version of the car comes so well spec'd. That kind of tells you in itself. I like that there's physical buttons, so you can knock yourself out. And that kind of, the trade-off of that is it's not the fanciest software working in the background. There's not tons and tons of menus and things to frustrate you in the one sense. It's all fairly straightforward. There's buttons. As an EV, driving wise, it does exactly what it says in the tin. It drives like so many other EVs. I kind of say it's just unremarkable, you know, but it's really no different in how it drives compared to maybe an ID3, maybe not as much POCUS, some of the stuff from Kia. And again, that's, you know, this car is creeping up to EV6 territory, and I think most people would choose an EV6 over it. There's something about Subarus, they just go forever and ever and ever, amen. And people who had Foresters and stuff in the noughties swear by them. I do get that, and you know, the fact that a lot of the underpinnings of this car are Toyota means it's really, really well put together, and it actually doesn't even look bad. It's kind of grown on me. I mean, these plastic houses are massive, but it kind of adds to the rugged character of the car. The main drawback is, particularly the higher spec €56,000 one, it has lovely kit on it, but the charging speed lets it down. The inefficiency really lets it down. And for that money, the real problem is there's just so many other electric vehicles in that space now, below that space in fact. So I think it's going to take a particular type of perhaps Subaru legacy fan, not the car, to want to buy one of these. And if you're still after one of these, then the Toyota kind of perhaps offers the slightly better offering with the better warranty. I'll leave you to decide that one, but let me know what you think of the Solterra. Is there enough of a difference? Were you a Subaru fan back in the day? If Colin McRae was still around, I'm not quite sure what he'd make of this. God rest him. But it's another proposition. If you want more grip, it will certainly do that. I just think it's a little bit too expensive and a little bit too inefficient. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.